I mean, I just guess I really missed the intro and how I guess, structure of this class works. So kind of getting caught up, and I guess I'll continue to pay attention to that stuff.
We begin each day. I welcome everyone. For instance, today, welcome to our third session. And then we have an introductory slide that covers some things about, here's what we did yesterday. So in case we were looking at things from yesterday, we said we moved something. And then we did our teach to learn conversations, and we asked ourselves to complete the what is quality form. And then, like we were just covering, a similar slide, different color at the end of each unit, covers here's the assignments. So on occasion, there might be something that you don't get in an email that is covered on that here's what we're doing slide. I try not to be unclear, but if there's any lack of clarity, please, send me a note, text me.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Since we were asked to move something, please open up your chat. And what did you move? If you didn't move anything, what did you plan to move? And please state which you did, move or plan to move. So what did you move? If you didn't move anything, what did you plan to move? Yeah, Matt, firewalls are built to prevent stuff from coming in. So you can send me anything. Don't worry about the files that come out. It just so happened that your firewall stopped me from returning the file that you sent to me to you. I think because there's a macro in there. So there's, the firewall sensed that there's some kind of active code in that file, and it said, no, I'm not letting it get by. So
I did, you were actually able to see them then?
Oh yeah, that's why I asked you those questions about, was this the only tab that there was a change on?
Okay,
and
yeah,
if you,
the other tabs are for other things.
Yeah, so if you can maybe highlight, change the border or change the background color on whatever cells you're changing, that would be helpful for me to identify. I mean, I figured it out by the wording, but I think I would just want to make it easier to identify it. Well, what's the change?
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, so Ben, you created a template that we use on the cabinets to better organize them. So that's a move. And inviting someone to participate with you in that. So when you say I had one of the texts, was that an invitation, or is that like something a request they couldn't say no to?
I mean, everybody seems to want a more organized space, so they seemed willing to help.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess they do work for me.
So it's hard to say no. Yeah, that's good. That's all right. The other thing that's good. Okay, good. And then, Michael, I don't know if you had anything that you were going to add.
I got the idea because I think it was referring back to day one on moves. But
yeah.
So if that's an idea, because I kind of thought of that as well yesterday.
I sent materials to you late as far as getting your project idea. I wouldn't expect that you had something here. I was just wondering if you did. So, okay, there wasn't an expectation. Yeah.
It's just a move towards, I guess, the project goal.
So I plan to move with my supervisor scheduling matrix to help improve the work distribution effectiveness. Yeah, that's great, because what happens when it's kind of like your deployment flow chart that's going to look something like that. Work distribution effectiveness means you're going to be moving work from one location to another on that chart, like who's doing it or when they're doing it. So those are appropriate types of moves for improving your process. So that works. Okay, thanks. Today, we're going to discuss theory of knowledge, and we're going to introduce the concept of mind mapping. Just checking, did you guys find some kind of piece of paper to work with? This can be a draft. It doesn't have to be your final mind map version, but something to start with. Whatever you have to start with is good. We're all set, everybody? Yep, okay. we're going to add a little distinction around move to improve. We're going to plan a move to improve and begin our mind map. So let's begin our exploration of the theory of knowledge. Dr. Deming stated that there is no substitute for knowledge, and he reminded us that information is not knowledge. So to understand what he meant by there's no substitute for knowledge and information is not knowledge, it would be helpful to know, well, what's the definition of knowledge? Deming taught knowledge is built on theory. The theory of knowledge teaches us that a statement, if it conveys knowledge, predicts future outcomes with risk of being wrong, and that it fits without failure observations of the past. So we have a fairly rigorous definition of what a statement of knowledge contains and what it's able to do for us. When he said there are no substitutes for knowledge, one of the things we might ask ourselves is, well, what do people commonly use instead of knowledge? These include tables of data, information of all types, tests and other labor-saving devices, books, dictionary, gossip, or the opinion of others, results, present style of management, benchmarking, or copying. So Deming asked and answered, how does one acquire knowledge? He said, we modify theory and thus we learn. So what's meant by this statement? How do we modify theory and thus we learn? That's a question for us here.
Could it mean maybe like trying new things to learn something, or maybe trying to adjust something? I guess I'm not really sure.
That's actually a very useful response. So there's something in there that's the theory. So when you say trying new things, what's the theory part of that?
I guess it's just your own concept of how you perceive what you're learning and really putting that chunk of, I guess, info into your knowledge and really learning how you, I guess, take what you're learning.
Yeah. So when there's an element of what you're learning. So you've decided to try something. Now, how is it that you learn from trying something? What's going on before you try it? And that allows you to actually say that you learned something.
I guess the thinking, the pre-planning.
Yeah, so there's an element of pre-planning. So what's going on in the pre-planning? It's kind of right there on the screen.
Learning.
So it's on the screen. What's on the screen there? So when we have a plan, what is it we're working with in our mind?
Knowledge itself.
We actually have a theory. So we have an idea, and a theory you could also use, describe it as a model for how things work. But we have a theory that says, this is what explains what I've seen in the past, and this is what will predict what I see will happen in the future. So theory is tightly wrapped into our ability to have knowledge. So Matt, say again what you're going to do. You're going to try something and you want to learn from it, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So when we're trying something, what is it that we're actually testing?
We're testing our new theory that we're
exactly. Yep. And so we have a theory that we're testing. We're going to move something. So for instance, you're changing the word from collect to validate, right? And then Ben, you're actually creating some kind of template that you have a theory that if this template is used, it'll organize us better. You have some kind of theory that says this is a useful thing. Now you test it, and like Michael, you said, you learn from that test in some fashion. What is it that is the learning that's going on? So Ben, say that your template doesn't quite produce the results you expected. What do you have to change? And not out in the world. What is it you're changing in your head?
I guess I would just have to better define kind of what the goal of the template was so I can make the changes that I need to make.
Yeah, so you've got a goal out here, and you've got a prediction or a theory, an idea that says the template's going to help me reach that goal. When you find out the template, I'm not saying it won't, but we're just saying in this case, if the template doesn't help you do that, your theory needs to change about how templates interact with the world and how people interact with the template. I've got this theory that template is the thing to use. And if it doesn't work, I have to modify what? My theory. So that's where the learning comes from. So Michael, when you describe we learn something, the way that we learn is to actually update our models, our theories about how things work in the world. So that's what Dr. Deming's talking about. We modify theory and thus we learn. The theory comes out in the form of a prediction. And so that's why Michael Twitty said something like this. He said, management in any form is prediction. And this includes plans, assumptions, decisions. It can be agendas. Your predictions that you made, Matt, is when I change the wording on this column, I'm going to get some sort of result that's better. Ben, when you talk about creating a template, we're going to see some version of, my prediction is there's a result in the world that's going to show up. Better organization, more tidiness, whatever that looks like. So we're making a prediction, and that's going to be fundamental to everything we do with our PDSA cycle. Every PDSA cycle, once we start doing PDSA cycles, involves making a prediction about a move you're going to make. I'm going to make this move, and I predict here's the result we'll see. Does that make sense? And then with those moves, you'll end up producing a result that says, my theory was right, my prediction was accurate, or maybe I need to learn something different. So again, returning to Deming's definition of knowledge, a statement, if it conveys knowledge, predicts future outcomes with risk of being wrong, and it fits without failure observations of the past. So it allows us to learn by updating and continually changing and improving the quality of our predictions. We're going to create a personal mind map of the theory of knowledge. We're going to use this statement as a foundation for your mind map. And let me talk to you about, well, what is a mind map? Have any of you seen a mind map before? It's all new. Except maybe you saw it briefly in the capstone presentations, if you saw the capstone presentation. So the format of that is extremely personal. There's a fundamental structure, but it's basically a visual representation about how you think about a topic or issue. This is a mind map that I have around structures. It's related to our understanding of a system. A visual representation of how you think about a topic can include a mind map such as this, which has strategy elements that we put together with a leadership team that was doing annual planning. In this particular document, you can click down into any one of these items and see the plans and additional mind maps that relate to the topics that serve the strategies of the organization. Now, the basic structure of a mind map is the central topic. So what are we going to put in our central topic on our mind maps?
Theory of knowledge.
Yeah, some version of theory of knowledge, right? You're going to have some statement there, or you can have a visual representation there. And you'll see that in some of the example mind maps that I show you. And then you add branches and label the branches to that central image. and then continue on with sub branches. And ultimately, you've got something that starts to look like this. Now, one color per branch can be useful. It's not required. You don't have to have color. You'll see that we have color and no color in some of our mind maps. If you draw pictures, they assist and prompt your imagination. I've done, and I've seen other people do entire hour-long sessions with a single page mind map that help remember the sequence and work that you, or just topics that you want to talk about. And rough sketches are okay. As I said, this is purely a personal mind map. You'll be submitting it, but it's something that represents your thinking, your understanding of the theory of knowledge. So here's an example of one being built throughout a course. And this may be more than one unit. This may not show up in one single unit like we have started. And your sources of things to put on this map include the quotes that I share with you, as well as what you're learning from your plan, do, study, act cycles. That's a very important source of theory of knowledge. And perhaps some of your teach to learn conversations. Here's other examples from participants in previous academies. So you can see right away there's a vast difference in how people decide to organize their thoughts and illustrate them. And doing this manually, you'll recall it more because not only do the ideas have to come in and out of your brain, but they also go through a sensory motor apparatus that your mind and body have. There's more neurons that are activated and help you recall things better when you do it physically rather than just on a piece of software. Now, I'm not saying don't use software, but this is a great way to start to look at how I see the theory of knowledge. So after drawing a shape in the middle of your page and inside that shape writing something to the effect of theory of knowledge, please begin to add branches, words, and images that illustrate your current understanding of the theory of knowledge. I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that. If you'll recall, so we also, in addition to Deming's definition of theory of knowledge, we have these 4 quotes that relate to the theory of knowledge from our 2 previous sessions. If you want to truly understand something, try to change it. Being on the court provides learning experiences, while remaining in the stands creates onlookers. Management is prediction. Knowledge is built on theory. Experience without theory teaches nothing. This is an interesting quote from Deming that you'll want to work with a lot. Rational prediction requires theory, and interpretation of data from a test or experiment is prediction. In both LabCorp and Emergent, you're dealing with data from tests and experiments, and it's interesting to see that those are actually predictions of some sort. And then you're in charge of your mind. You can help it grow by using it the right way. What have you got so far? You want to describe it? I don't know if you can hold it up to your camera or not. Yeah, excellent.
I got another idea, so I restarted.
Yeah, there's a strong likelihood that that's what you'll do with your mind map, is you might restart it several times. You'll find different ways you want to organize it. So today's version may not be the version that you continue working on later in the course. Ben, what do you have so far?
I mapped out a couple of the quotes and then branched off with my thoughts on the quotes. And
Yeah, that's great. In fact, I would prefer to see your thoughts about the quotes rather than the quotes on your mind map. A lot of people just simply put quotes on the mind map. However, the important part is, what are you thinking about as it relates to the theory of knowledge? You know, that's a clear exploration of your thoughts and your understanding than simply a catalog of what I've shown you. This is good. This is an excellent start. I'm going to continue on. The daily theory of knowledge quotes are for your use in adding ideas, concepts, and experiences to your mind map. Your mind map will and should look uniquely yours. You've already seen that from the start that you've made. Remember, this is a mind map about the theory of knowledge, not about the system of profound knowledge. We don't have a unit that addresses theory of knowledge specifically in the Academy. So this is the way we address this area of the theory of knowledge, is through your mind map. You will add to your mind map each day using both your PDSA experiences and your theory of knowledge quotes. At the end of each Academy unit, you'll make a high quality copy or photo of your mind map to submit. So the first day you'll submit a copy of your mind map will be Monday, January 31st. You might put a note in your calendar for that. There certainly will be a reminder about, here's the items to submit on the last day of our first unit. You'll continue to add to your mind map for the entirety of the IQI Academy, submitting the newest version at the conclusion of each unit, with the final version being submitted after you deliver your capstone presentation. So if management is in any form is prediction, your project work yesterday was to move something. Did you make a prediction before you moved something? In the chat box, write down the prediction you made, or if you made no prediction, write down none. Okay. So here's a question about this. You don't have to write this in. Did you document that prediction? Is that a yes, a no? Is it? Yeah. So one of the things we want to pay attention to is, for our purposes during the Academy, a prediction doesn't count unless you've written it down before you make your move. You can't write down, oh, I predicted that after the fact. Okay. So if it's not in your PDSA plan, or if not in some kind of plan before you make a move, then we can't count it as a prediction that was made. What would a useful prediction contain?
Information.
About what?
Okay, I guess it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
That's
yeah.
right.
Okay, so it'd be about the job function.
Yeah, so you've got information, useful about the job function. So you're testing some kind of idea or theory, and you're saying, I have an idea. If I do this thing, I'm going to produce some kind of result. If I move this thing, then this is the result I will cause, and this is what I will see. So there might be two aspects to it. Sometimes there might be results that you can't easily observe that you still are attempting to consider. So that might be something like, people like the new process. Well, you can't tell right away whether or not people like it or not. So you might have to, we did a test one time where we implemented a process to bring materials to people at their work location rather than have them go get them from the warehouse. After we had tested that for a little while, we wanted to find out if they liked it. Our simple test for that was how many thumbs up and how many thumbs down are we predicting we're going to get from the teams that we were testing this on. There might be some simple ways of verifying your prediction. But basically what you're going to do is if I move this thing, then this will be the result I will cause, and this is what I will see. Meaning that somebody else unrelated to your test could also collect that same observation. Does that make sense? Okay. As I mentioned, this is documented before you make a move. And then finally, then you go move something. Okay. So that's part of our assignment today. Let's go through what we have. We've covered topics for Teach to Learn about predicting, then moving, and then obviously our mind map. These are things, theory of knowledge and mind mapping are topics or concepts that you will teach today or could teach. You'll document a prediction and then move something related to your project. So again, what's the format for a prediction? Go ahead, Ben. When we're making a prediction, what are we documenting?
Basically just an if-then statement.
Yep. And what's in the if-then statement? Matt, what's in the if-then statement?
If I move this, then this will happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will do this.
Yep. And Michael, when do you make that prediction?
Pretty much before it happens, so it's not really like a confirmation bias.
Exactly.
Like this all along.
Yeah, it's very important to avoid that. That's the types of biases that show up after the fact. When you already know the outcomes, it's real easy to update the theory you thought you had. So you want to document that beforehand because that will improve your learning. Here's 2 more quotes that you can use to build more branches of your theory of knowledge mind map. This is from Clayton Christensen and his book, How You Measure Your Life. I highly recommend this book. It's one of the best business and personal philosophy books I've ever seen. Clayton Christensen, when he passed away just recently, was a professor at Harvard. He's written about disruptive innovations, and he says that's a hallmark of a good theory. It dispenses its advice in if-then statements. And then Deming, in his book, Sample Design in Business Research, actually the only safe use of experience is to perceive and to formulate questions and to predict the losses and gains from the various decisions that are possible. Thank you very much for today. It's a good start you've made on your mind maps, and I think your understanding of the role of prediction in your process of making moves.